The night was heavy with silence, the kind of silence that seemed louder than sound itself. The ocean stretched like a black sheet of glass under the moonlight, broken only by the faint outline of a Navy destroyer cutting through the waves. On its deck, men in uniform moved with purpose, faces hidden behind determination and the weight of what was ahead. And at the far edge of the dock, in the shadow of armored vehicles, a woman leaned against the wheel of a military Humvee, waiting. She wasn't a commander. She wasn't a decorated soldier. She was just the SEAL team's driver. At least, that's what everyone thought. Her name was Elena Cruz. She was 28, quiet, observant, and often overlooked. Her job was simple: get the SEALs to their destination, wait in silence, and get them back safely if they returned. To most of the men, she was background noise, just the one holding the key. But what they didn't know was that Elena carried stories inside her no one dared to ask about. Scars invisible but carved deep, and skills she had sworn to keep buried. The mission briefing that night was short and brutal. A hostage extraction deep inside hostile territory. The odds? Slim. The risks? Unthinkable. The SEALs gathered around their commander, eyes sharp, voices clipped. Elena stayed by the vehicle, listening from the corner of her ear, pretending she wasn't listening at all. But she was. Every word sank into her chest like weights. She memorized the route, the coordinates, the emergency calls. She wasn't supposed to, but she couldn't help it, because she knew missions like this had a way of going wrong. As the team loaded their weapons and strapped on gear, one of the younger SEALs, a man with an easy grin, glanced at her and said, half joking, "Don't fall asleep behind the wheel, Cruz. The only thing we need you for is driving." A few of the others chuckled. Elena gave a small nod, a polite smile, but inside something burned. They didn't see her, they never really did. When the Humvee roared to life and rolled into the darkness, Elena gripped the wheel with steady hands. The desert stretched before them, endless and merciless, wind whipping sand like whispers of old ghosts. The SEALs spoke in low voices, planning, preparing, their leader's words crisp and commanding. Elena stayed silent, her eyes fixed forward, but every turn of the tires was etched into her memory. She had grown up in places like this, places where silence was survival and driving meant life or death. Long before the Navy ever stamped her name on papers, she had learned to navigate roads where maps failed, where danger lurked in every shadow. Hours passed like a blur until finally, the convoy halted. The SEALs dismounted, weapons ready, their figures disappearing into the ruins of a small village swallowed by the night. Elena stayed behind, alone in the driver's seat, her heart pounding with a rhythm she tried to ignore. She watched the horizon, scanning for movement, waiting for the call that would tell her it was time to move. The engine purred like a restless animal beneath her. Minutes turned into an hour. The radio crackled now and then, bursts of static, fragments of orders. Then suddenly gunfire. Not distant, not muffled, close. Too close. Her grip tightened on the wheel as her throat dried. She couldn't see them, couldn't know what was happening, but the sharp cracks of rifles and the heavy thud of explosions told her enough. The mission was going sideways. The radio hissed again, and a voice shouted through the static, "Eagle 1, we're compromised." "Repeat, we're compromised. We need exfil, now." Elena slammed the Humvee into gear, tires clawing at the sand as she sped forward into the chaos. She didn't think. She couldn't. The night exploded around her, tracer rounds streaking like fireflies, walls crumbling, dust rising into choking clouds. She saw them then, the SEALs dragging one of their own, blood streaked down his arm, another firing wildly behind them to keep enemies at bay. She skidded to a halt, doors flung open, shouting over the roar of bullets. "Get in! Move!" Her voice cut through the madness like a blade, fierce and commanding in a way they'd never heard from her before. The SEALs piled in, one of them hauling their wounded brother, another covering their backs, until the last second. Elena floored the accelerator before the doors even slammed shut. The Humvee roared, bouncing hard over rocks and broken streets, as enemy fire followed like thunder. "Left! Left!" one of the SEALs shouted, but Elena didn't turn. She knew this terrain, knew where that road would lead. Instead, she yanked the wheel right, barreling down a narrow alley that barely fit the vehicle. Sparks flew as the mirrors scraped stone walls, but they made it through, vanishing into the blackness. The men stared at her, stunned, holding on for dear life. "How did you know?" one started, but another silenced him. There was no time. Behind them, trucks rumbled, headlights cutting through the dust. The enemy wasn't giving up. Elena drove like a storm, eyes sharp, jaw clenched, every instinct honed from years no one here knew about. She wove through paths no map had marked, her memory guiding her like an unspoken compass. But the chase was relentless. A round shattered the rear window, glass spraying like rain. The wounded SEAL groaned, slipping in and out of consciousness, his teammates pressing hands against his wound to keep him alive. Elena's chest tightened. She couldn't let them die. Not here. Not like this. The radio crackled again, the commander's voice sharp with strain. "Driver Cruz, we're cut off from extraction. Roads are blocked. We're not making it back to base." The words hit like a hammer. Not making it back. That meant capture. That meant death. Elena's hands gripped the wheel harder, her mind racing. There had to be another way, and she knew there was. A path not on any chart. A passage she had once taken in another life when survival depended on it. But if she chose it, the SEALs would know. They would know she wasn't just their quiet driver. She swallowed hard, made her choice, and pressed the accelerator deeper. The Humvee lurched forward into the unknown, headlights sweeping across barren cliffs. The commander leaned forward, eyes narrowing at her. "Cruz, where are you taking us?" She didn't answer. Not yet. Because if she spoke, everything she had kept hidden would come to light. The cliffs rose higher, jagged teeth against the sky, and the path narrowed until it seemed impossible for a vehicle to pass. The SEALs shouted, some cursing, others gripping tighter to the rails as Elena drove straight toward it. The headlights caught the edge of a canyon, deep and merciless, nothing but darkness below. "Stop! You'll kill us!" one of them yelled. But Elena's eyes didn't waver. She knew something they didn't. And as the Humvee hurtled closer to the cliff's edge, the commander's voice thundered again, this time demanding, "Cruz, answer me. Who are you?" The question hung in the air, louder than the gunfire still chasing them, heavier than the roar of the engine. And just as the vehicle skidded toward the drop, Elena finally opened her mouth to speak. Her voice came low, steady, almost calm in the chaos. "I'm the one who knows the way out. Trust me." The SEALs looked at each other, stunned into silence. But there was no time to argue. The Humvee thundered forward, and just when it seemed they were about to plunge into the abyss, Elena yanked the wheel hard and the vehicle veered onto a hidden track carved into the side of the canyon wall. Tires screeched, stones tumbled into the darkness below. But the Humvee clung to the path, sliding, rattling, yet somehow holding. The men inside shouted, gripping whatever they could. Their commander stared at her, his face lit by flashes of muzzle fire still chasing them, and for the first time there was something in his eyes that wasn't doubt. It was awe. The road was barely a road at all, a forgotten smuggler's trail from years past, winding through cliffs where no enemy would dare follow at full speed. Elena guided the Humvee with the precision of someone who had done this before. Every turn etched into her bones. Dust and rock hammered against the vehicle, the canyon echoing with engines behind them. But the enemy trucks slowed, hesitant, unfamiliar with this treacherous path. For the first time since the firefight, there was space to breathe, but the silence in the Humvee was heavy. One of the SEALs, his voice half wonder, half accusation, muttered, "How do you even know this place exists?" Elena's jaw tightened. She didn't answer. Not yet. Her focus was on the road, on the life bleeding out of the man in the back seat, on the weight pressing down on her chest. Finally, the commander spoke again, softer this time, almost as if speaking to himself. "You're not just a driver, are you?" Elena's hands tightened on the wheel. The memory surged, nights when she wasn't Elena Cruz, Navy chauffeur, but something else entirely. Years ago, before the uniform, before the quiet life she tried to build, she had belonged to another world, a world of shadows, where missions were done in silence and names were never remembered. She had sworn to leave it behind, and yet here she was, steering a team of SEALs out of hell, the past clawing its way back into the present. The SEAL bleeding in the back let out a weak gasp, his comrades pressing tighter on the wound. Elena's heart twisted. She had seen too many men die in places like this. Not again, not if she could help it. The canyon track twisted sharply, and Elena braked hard, the Humvee skidding sideways before finding grip again. She stole a glance in the mirror. The enemy's lights were further now, scattered, struggling to keep pace. But they wouldn't stop. They never did. "Hold on," Elena warned, voice low but unshakable. Then she pushed the vehicle harder, metal groaning, engine howling against the climb. Minutes bled into eternity. Every breath in the Humvee was heavy. Every heartbeat thundered. And then, finally, the canyon opened, spilling them onto a plateau where the horizon stretched wide and endless. Stars scattered across the sky like shattered glass. For a moment it almost felt like freedom. But then the radio crackled again. A voice from command, urgent, clipped. "Team Bravo, enemy reinforcements en route. You're cut off from extraction. Air support unavailable. Repeat, you're on your own." The words sank like stones. One of the SEALs cursed under his breath. Another slammed his fist against the side of the Humvee. The commander's jaw locked, but his eyes turned to Elena, almost as if somehow she had become the one holding their fate. She exhaled slowly, her eyes narrowing toward the horizon. "We're not done. Not yet." The enemy trucks emerged from the canyon behind them, headlights burning like hungry eyes. Elena gritted her teeth and drove toward the far edge of the plateau. There, half buried in shadow, lay the ruins of an old airstrip, forgotten by time. She remembered it. She had been here once before, long ago, on a mission no one in this Humvee would ever hear about. The commander's eyes widened when he saw it. "That strip, it's unusable. It's suicide." Elena shook her head, voice steady. "Not tonight. Tonight, it's our lifeline." The SEAL exchanged glances, fear and faith clashing in their eyes. The wounded man moaned, his life slipping faster now. They didn't have another choice. Elena swung the Humvee onto the cracked runway, headlights bouncing over weeds and broken concrete. She slammed the brakes, the vehicle screeching to a stop. Dust swallowed them whole. She turned to the commander, meeting his eyes for the first time without flinching. "You have air support even if they don't know it yet. Signal them. Get me a bird here." The commander frowned. "They said no support." "Signal them." Elena snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. For the first time, the SEAL saw fire in her eyes, something fierce and unyielding. The commander hesitated only a second before barking orders into the radio. The enemy trucks grew closer, engines growling, lights sweeping over the broken airstrip. Elena stood outside the Humvee now, rifle in her hands, one she grabbed without hesitation. The SEALs watched, stunned, as she moved with precision. Every motion practiced, controlled. She wasn't just the driver. She was something far more. Gunfire lit up the night, echoing off the ruins. Elena fired back, cover for the SEALs as they secured the perimeter. Bullets whipped past, dust spraying. The wounded man slipping closer to the edge, and then faint at first, then rising a thunder above the sky. The chop of rotor blades. A helicopter. The SEAL's eyes snapped upward, hope flickering, like fire. Elena's chest heaved, sweat streaking her face, but she didn't lower her weapon. Not yet. Not until the bird was close enough, not until her brothers in arms were safe. The helicopter descended, wind blasting across the strip, its side door open, crew shouting. The SEALs moved fast, dragging their wounded toward salvation. Bullets rained, engines roared, but Elena stood her ground, covering every step, her rifle singing until the last man was aboard. The commander shouted at her from the chopper door, his voice torn by the wind. "Cruz, get in!" But Elena hesitated. Her eyes swept the strip, the trucks grinding closer, the headlights blinding. She could stay. She could finish this fight, end it on her terms. But then she saw the wounded SEAL's face, pale and fading, his brothers holding him tight, begging him to hold on. And she knew her place was not here in the shadows of the past. Her place was with them. She sprinted, bullets kicking up sparks at her heels, and leapt into the helicopter as it lifted from the ground. The world below blurred, fire and fury swallowed by the dark. Inside the bird, the SEALs collapsed against the walls, exhausted, battered, but alive. The wounded man clung to life, medics working over him, and in the corner, Elena sat, rifle across her lap, chest rising and falling. The commander stared at her, his eyes searching hers. Finally, he spoke, voice low but certain. "You saved us. You saved this mission. You're no driver?" Elena looked back, her gaze steady, almost unreadable. "I was never just a driver, but sometimes people only see what they want to." Silence settled, heavy and meaningful. The SEALs who had once laughed at her now looked at her with something else, respect. Real, unshakable respect. The helicopter cut across the night sky, the horizon bleeding with the first light of dawn. And in that fragile glow, Elena Cruz closed her eyes for just a moment, letting the wind wash over her. She had driven them into battle. She had taken the wheel of the mission itself. And in doing so, she had reminded them all that heroes don't always wear the rank you expect. Sometimes the quiet ones hold the keys to survival. Sometimes the one you overlook is the one who carries you home.